So that's hey, good Olive.
Did you notice, by the way,
Uh,
we missed out on one of the rare coincidences yesterday, when we were doing Chazara on Mishnah, on the previous Mishnah, Mishnah Yud, that they were
right.
talking about Mincha v'Yom Tov Achron Hayom Yisvadin, right? So we were sitting at Suda Shlishis, and I was just before Suda Shlishis, I was doing my Mishnah, and I said, this is it, but I'm just out by a year, that's all, because
That's
it's the third year now, and that was down on the
right.
fourth year. So yeah.
Uh, oh, it was so hard to get back to normal today. I was just like, all right, according to all your commandments which you have commanded me. However, if he separated Maaser Sheni before Maaser Rishon, he cannot make a confession. I have not transgressed your commandments. I did not separate from one kind for another kind, nor from the plucked for the unplucked, or from the unplucked for the plucked, nor from the new for the old, or from the old for the new. And I have not forgotten. I did not forget to bless you or mention your name over it. I have not eaten of it in my morning. However, if he did eat it in the morning, he cannot make confession. Neither have I consumed any part of it when unclean. However, if he did separate from it when unclean, he cannot make the confession, nor given of it for the dead. I have not bought for either a coffin or shrouds for the dead, nor have I given it to any other mourners. I have hearkened to the voice of the Lord my God. I have brought it to the chosen house. I have done according to all that you have commanded me. I rejoice and cause others to rejoice with it. Look down from your holy habitation from heaven. What have done we have done what you have imposed upon us. You also what you have promised us. Look down from your holy habitation from heaven and bless your people Israel with sons and daughters in the land which you have given us, with dew and rain, with the offspring of cattle, as you swore to our fathers, a land flowing with milk and honey, that it might impart flavor to the produce. Okay.
Yay. מכאן אמרו, ישראל וממזרים מזוודים, אבל לא גרים ולא עבדים משוחררים שאין להם חלק בארץ. So, only Jews, Israel, and here Israel include, yeah, specifically Israelim, not Kohanim and Levim. Uh,
Right.
Zerim can also inherit, because they're you're not allowed that all the only restriction is they're not allowed to marry into the core group, but they are allowed to inherit from their fathers, or from their mothers. Um, well, lo Gerim, but Gerim do not have an inheritance because they don't inherit from any land from anyone, and the same goes for Avadim Shachraim because they're basically the same as Gerim in that respect because they have no portion in the land, so therefore they just don't have this vidoy. Rabbi Meir Omer af lo kohanim u'levim. Same thing goes for kohanim u'levim shelo natlu chelik ba'aretz because the land wasn't apportioned among them. But Rabbi Yossi says yesh lahem are migrash. At least the Levim have got the Ari Migrash, so they could say the Vidoy, but it seems like there's a consensus that Kohanim can't say it because Kohanim do not have a Chelek. And the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi. Um, I'm just looking if there's a comment in here about no. Okay. Um, Yochanan Kohen Gadol Hevir Hodayos Hamaser. So um, so when Yochanan Kohen Gadol was looking at the situation, he said we cannot do this Vidoi Maaseh anymore. Why? Because the Levium did not come back from Bavel, and they were therefore punished. Um,
No Levium came back from Babel?
Not yeah, well, very few, and there was actually so few of them came back that Ezra punished them and stopped giving them the Maaser Rishon. לא, חלקם שלו ייתנו את המאסר ראשון, yeah. So the Maaser Rishon went instead of to the Levium, Ezra was masakin that the Maaser Rishon would go to Kohanim instead of Levium.
So Kohanim came back then more than Levium.
Yeah, Kohanim came back, not so much Levium. Okay, so the same guy, same Yochanan Kohen Gadol. While we're talking about what we said, what he did with regard to Vidoi Maser, because that was the subject we're on. But now tangentially, what are the other takanas that he made? He was mevatel hameorarim. Now, what are the meorarim? There was there was a practice that some of the Levium would say at the time of saying the shir on the korban. It's Uru lama tishan Hashem, like wake up Hashem. We know we need you. And Yochanan said this is a bit of a chutzpah. Uh, and he said Hashem is not. It's like Ilu saying that Hashem is sleeping, even though this is from Tehillim. But Hine lo yanum v'lo yishan shomei Israel is the other pasuk in Tehillim. So Ura was talking about when Israel is in trouble, and the other nations were Sheket Nachas Shalva, and but in the time that there's a base of Mikdash, you don't need to say this pasuk. So he was mavatal at Ve'es Hanokvim, um, and the Nokvim, there was a practice that some people had was when they brought a calf for a korban, they would give it a they would pierce it pierce its skin between its eyes so that there would be a bit of blood flowing into its eyes. Now that's not a mum. It's just a wound that's going to heal. Okay, so they did that in order to confuse it, so that it would not thrash about when it came to bringing the korban. And he said this doesn't look good. Basically, it looks like you're uh,
Zora?
yeah, no, it looks like it might be a shemitah of a zora. It might be that you're being treifas on the mizbeach because maybe you're going to puncture it too far and actually make it into a treifa. So he said, no, no more, no more. So he actually put the rings in the floor of the Beit Hamikdash. Remember we saw in Midos there was a thing of 6 by 4 rings next to the mizbeach. So those were put in by Yochanan Kohen Gadol in order to as an alternative to keep the animal still while you shechted it.
But they were there from the beginning. I realized that.
Interesting. Okay. The Ad Yamav Haya Patish Makeh Yerushalayim said there was before his time, the artisans used to still do work, and there's a heter to work on Chol Hamoed, for artisans for things that were needed for the moed. But he said like you're walking through the streets and you're hearing hammers going and whatever. He said this is not covered on moed, and he was mevatel it. So he said you cannot do any work there. And furthermore, his last takana was Ein Adam Tzarich Lishol Ala Demai. Right, he was the one who instituted the whole practice of demai, because up until then, when you purchased produce from an Amaretz, you weren't sure did he take produce or not. He said, no, I did, and like it's like awkward. So,
Right.
so what Yochanan Kohen Gadol said is, if a person is not proven to be a Maaser, you have to treat it as demai, and you have to separate produce. Okay, now you don't have to ask anymore. Okay, Hadran Allah Maseches Maaser Sheni. Did you bring out Challah?
Oh, right here. Okay.
Excellent. Okay, Chamisha Dvarim Chayivim B'Challah. There are 5 species that require challah to be taken once you make dough out of them. Okay, that's Chitim, Asaorim, Kusmin, Shiboles Shual, and Shifon. Our 5 species are commonly accepted as wheat, barley, spelt,
Well,
oats, and rye. There is a bit of an argument about Shibolet Shual, whether that's oats or whether that's buckwheat, but I think we generally accept that it's oats. Hare elu chayvim b'challah. These are the species that have several things in common. First, the chayv in challah. And the quantities combine with each other. So for example, if you're making matzah, then you can mix them together and it makes up a kazayis. And if you're making dough and there's a minimum shear where you have to take challah, they all add up together to how much challah you can have. The asurin b'chadash milifnei haPesach, and furthermore, if they have not taken root before Pesach, then you have to wait until the following year until you can have the produce. So you have to make sure that these species are planted before Pesach if you want to enjoy them that year. Miliktsor milifnei ha'omer, and you cannot harvest them before the omer has been cut. So even if you have early ripening things, the omer is happening today, by the way. That is today's the day when they do the Korban HaOmer, first day of Chol HaMoed. Well, actually not today. Sorry, beg your pardon. It was first day Chol HaMoed.
Right.
So
Okay.
a week ago, basically. Well, um, 6 days ago. And V'im hishrishu kodem la'omer, if they did strike root before the Korban HaOmer, HaOmer matiran, then the Korban HaOmer is matir them for that year. V'im lav asurin ad sheyavo HaOmer haba, and if not, then you cannot you cannot eat them until the following Pesach. Okay.
There's a comment here. I don't think you have it in yours, but or maybe you do the Kahati. It says at the bottom of my page, it says, in regard to spelt, Usman. You see that? Do you have that?
What does it say about spelt? Oh, yes. Yes, that's right.
Well,
Okay,
I
give it.
pointed out to the widespread mistake of identifying it with so-called the German Bookwisen, a kind of pulse unrelated to the five species of green. This confusion can lead to several halakhic errors. An example, reciting the wrong blessing. So, but it is Hamotzi spelled.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know
it is.
what does
No,
it mean by the wrong
the thing, it's
wrong
not it's
blessing,
not the it's not the Buchweitz, the German Buchweitz. I think
right?
buckwheat. That's uh, if you translate it directly from Buchweitz to buckwheat, that makes sense, right? So buckwheat
Right.
is not one of your five species. That's we're not excluding spelt, we're excluding buckwheat.
So buckwheat, yeah, buckwheat's not. Buckwheat's a
Yeah,
motzi. So
yeah.
okay, not check that out. Okay, all
It's got a
right,
bit of
good.
a discussion in there about all the different species that are and are not, but we generally accept that those are the five species.
I use spelt matzo.
So
So,
does my wife.
okay, so
Okay,
my
Daled Beit.
Sheni, dollar base. Maaser Sheni may be redeemed at the chief price, as the shopkeeper buys, but not as he sells, at the rate the money changer accepts small change, and not at the rate he provides small change. Maaser Sheni may not be redeemed in a lump. If its price is known, it may be redeemed according to the valuation of one witness. If its value is not known, it must be redeemed according to the variation of three. As for instance, wine that has formed a film, produce that has gone bad, or coins that have rusted. If the owner said for a seller and another said for a seller, the owner has precedence because he adds a fifth. If the owner says for a seller and another said for a seller and an isser, that of a seller and an isser has precedence since he adds to the principal. If one redeems his own Maaser Sheni, he must add a fifth to it, whether it is his or was given to him as a present. One may act cunningly regarding Maaser Sheni. How so? A man says to his son or daughter who are of age, or to his Hebrew manservant or maidservant, here is the money and redeem for yourself this Maaser Sheni. But he may not say to his son or daughter who are minors or his Canaanite manservant or maidservant because their hand is as his hand. Okay.
Okay. Shimon,
Okay.
Yud Daled.
If one heated an oven with cumin of truma and baked in it, the bread is permitted since it is no taste but only the aroma of cumin. The fenugreek fell into a wine vine of truma and Maaser Sheni if the seed was sufficient to impart a flavor, but not the stalk. If of the seventh year of vineyard kalayim or of hektish, if the seed and the wood impart a flavor. If one had bundles of fenugreek of vineyard kalayim, they must be burned. If he had bundles of tevel fenugreek, he must beat them and calculate how much seed they contain and separate from the seed. But he need not separate from the stalks. But if he separated, he must not say, I shall beat and take the stalks and give the seeds, but he must give the stalks with the seeds. Okay.
Right.
And we have Demai. Okay. Um, hey, Yud. A perforated pot is as the earth. If he gave truma from the earth and for a perforated pot for the earth, his truma is truma. From a non-perforated pot for a perforated one, it is truma, but he must give truma again. From a perforated one for a non-perforated one, it is truma, but it may not be eaten until he separates truma and maasers for it. If he gave truma from demai for definite tevel, it is truma, but he must give truma again. From definite tevel for demai, it is truma, but he may not be eaten until he has given truma and maaseh for it. If one leases a field from a Jew, from a non-Jew, or Kuthian, he sets their share before them. If one rents a field from a Jew, he must take truma and give it to him. Rabbi Yehuda says when? When he gives him from the same field and from the same species, but when he gives him from another field and from another species, he tithes and gives him.
Okay.
Okay, we are on. Okay. Yud Aleph. The sucking can become confined tummy for 2 weeks and a confirmed tummy with two symptoms and a deficient blood hair or an expansion. Deficient blood hair means damage by being short. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nori says even long. Says Yochanan ben Nori, what do people mean when they say this stick is dark or this reed is dark? Don't they mean it is very thin regarding whether it is short or long? Rabbi Akiva said to him, before we learn from a reed, we should learn from hair. When people say so-and-so's hair is dark, they use dark to mean very short, not long, and very thin. The deficient blonde hair renders the nesek tame whether together or scattered, surrounded or not surrounded, changed by the nega or not changed. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon says it only renders tame if they change by the nega. Reb Shimon is a logical argument. If white hair whose tumor is not curtailed by other hair renders a nega tame only if it was changed by the preceding nega, should not deficient blonde hair which is curtailed by another hair render tame only when changed. Rabbi Yehuda says wherever the Torah needs to say change, it means change. However, a nesek about which it says it had no blonde hair within it renders the nesek tame whether changed or not changed. New growth saved from blonde hair and from expansion, whether together or scattered, surrounded or not surrounded. Remaining hair saves from blonde hair and from expansion, whether together or scattered, but only surrounded when it is on the side. But it does not save unless it has two hair spaces distant from where the hair grows normally. And one blonde hair, one black hair, or one blonde hair and one white hair do not save. Okay. Avos. Okay, dollar basic. But Elazar ben Hakapia says jealousy, lust, and honor remove a man from the world. He used to say, the born shall die, the dead shall be resurrected, and the living shall be judged. To know, to make known, and to understand that he is God. He is the molder, he is the creator, he is the discerner, he is the judge, he is the witness, he is the litigant, and he will ultimately pass judgment. Blessed is he, for before him is neither iniquity nor forgetfulness, for favoritism, nor acceptance of bribes, for everything is his. Know that everything is according to the accounting, and do not let your evil inclination assure you that the grave is a refuge for you. For against you you will be formed, and against you you were born, and against your will you will live, and against your will you will die, and against your will you are destined to give judgment and accounting for the King who reigns over kings, the Holy One, blessed is he. With the 10 divine statements, the world was created. And what does this come to teach? Is it not evident that it could be created with one divine statement? Rather, it is to hold liable the wicked who destroy the world that was created with 10 divine statements, and to bestow optimal reward upon the righteous who sustain the world that was created with 10 statements. Okay. And we have Ramos. Okay. That's for base. But Hillel said, we have not heard this tradition except in the case where she came from the harvest and from the same country as in the incident which occurred. But Shammai said to them, it is the same whether they came from the harvesting grain or picking olives or picking grapes or from one country to another. The sages mentioned the harvest only recounting the actual incident. Beis Hillel recanted and began to rule like Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai says she may marry and she receives a ketubah, but Beis Hillel says she may marry but does not receive a ketubah. And Shammai said to them, you permitted the grave offense, but you will not permit the less grave money offense. Beis Hillel replied, we find that the brothers do not inherit the estate on her testimony. And Beis Shammai replied, we learn this from the Ketubah document in which he writes to her, if you marry another, you shall receive what is written to you. Beis Hillel recanted and began to rule like Beis Shammai. Everyone is believed to testify for her except for her mother-in-law, her mother-in-law's daughter, her co-wife, her sister-in-law, and her husband's daughter. Why is there a difference between testimony concerning a bill of divorce and testimony concerning death? Because the document is proof. If one witness said he died and she remarried, and then another came and said she did not die, she need not be discharged. If one witness said he died and two witnesses said he did not die, even if she remarried she must be discharged. If two witnesses says he died and one witness said he did not die, even if she had been married, she may do so.
Okay,
Okay.
that's it. You're
Right.
done.
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
Good.
Shavua Tov.
So my wife mentioned yesterday.